My name is Patricia. I'm 34 years old, and what I discovered in my own home shattered everything I believed about the people I love. I thought I knew my husband. I thought I knew what loyalty meant. I thought the walls of my house protected me from the cruelty of the outside world. But I was wrong. So painfully, devastatingly wrong. For years, I built a life brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. I gave everything to the man I married, to the family we created together. I trusted blindly because that's what love is supposed to be, isn't it? Complete faith, total surrender. But that trust? It became the very weapon that destroyed me. What I'm about to tell you isn't just my story. It's a warning. It's a scream into the void for anyone who's ever felt that gnawing suspicion in the pit of their stomach, that whisper in the back of their mind saying, something isn't right. I ignored that voice for too long, and the price I paid, God, the price was almost everything. I need you to understand something before I go any further. This isn't easy for me. Every word feels like I'm ripping open a wound that's barely begun to heal. But I'm telling you this because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone out there is living through their own nightmare right now, and maybe, just maybe, my story will give them the courage to face their truth. But what I saw that night, what I witnessed with my own two eyes in the home I had cleaned and decorated and filled with love, I'll never forget it. Not as long as I live. It's burned into my memory like a brand, and some nights I wake up in a cold sweat, seeing it all over again. Before I continue, I need to ask you something. Please, if you're listening to this, like this video, subscribe to Voices with Auntie Mimi, and tell me where you're watching from right now. Drop a comment. Let me know I'm not alone in this darkness. It helps me know someone out there still believes in stories like this. Someone still cares about the truth, even when it's ugly and painful and makes you want to look away. Because what I'm about to tell you, most people would rather pretend it doesn't exist. But it does. It happens behind closed doors, in homes that look perfect from the outside, to women who smile at church on Sunday and cry themselves to sleep on Monday night. It happened to me. And if you're not careful, if you don't pay attention to the signs I missed, it could happen to you too. Let me take you back. Back to before. Back when I still believed in the fairy tale. My husband Marcus and I had been married for 9 years. 9 years that I thought were happy. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house on Maple Street, the kind with a white picket fence and rose bushes that I tended every Saturday morning. We had 2 children, Tyler, who was 7, and little Emma, just 5 years old, with her father's eyes and my stubborn spirit. Every morning started the same way. I'd wake up at 5:30, before the sun painted the sky pink, and I'd make coffee. The smell would fill the house, rich and warm, and by the time Marcus came downstairs at 6, I'd have his favorite mug waiting for him, the blue one his mother gave us at our wedding. He'd kiss my forehead, grab his briefcase, and head out to his job at the accounting firm downtown. Then I'd wake the children. Tyler always groaned and pulled the covers over his head, making me chase him around the room until we were both laughing. Emma was easier. She'd bounce out of bed like a little spring, already chattering about what she wanted to wear and what she hoped would be in her lunchbox. I'd get them ready, make breakfast, usually pancakes or eggs, sometimes oatmeal if I was running late, and we'd sit together at the kitchen table. The morning light would stream through the yellow curtains I'd sewn myself, and for those few minutes, everything felt perfect, complete. Like all my sacrifices had been worth it. I dropped out of college to marry Marcus. Did I mention that? I had been studying to be a teacher, had dreams of my own classroom filled with eager young minds. But Marcus got the job offer in this town, and we both agreed that starting our family was more important than my degree. "You can always go back," he'd said, holding my hands in his and looking at me with those sincere brown eyes. But these years with our babies, we can never get those back. So I stayed home. I became the perfect wife, the devoted mother. I packed lunches with little notes tucked inside. I volunteered at the school. I kept our house spotless. You could eat off my kitchen floor. That's what my mother-in-law used to say, and she didn't give compliments easily. I cooked dinner every single night, real meals from scratch, not frozen things or takeout. Pot roast on Sundays, spaghetti on Wednesdays, fish on Fridays. Marcus would come home around 6:30, and I'd have everything ready. The table set with the good plates, candles lit because he once mentioned he liked the way they made the room feel cozy. The children would run to him, shouting, "Daddy, Daddy!" And he'd scoop them up, one in each arm, spinning them around until they shrieked with delight. We'd eat together, talking about our days. Well, Marcus would talk about his work, office politics, and difficult clients and budget reports. I'd share little stories about the kids, about the grocery store, about the neighbor's new puppy. Small things, domestic things, the kind of ordinary moments that make up a life. After dinner, we had our routine. Marcus would play with the kids while I cleaned up. Then bath time, story time, bedtime. By 8:30, the house would be quiet, and Marcus and I would sit on the couch together. Sometimes we'd watch TV. Sometimes we'd just talk. Sometimes he'd rest his head in my lap and I'd run my fingers through his hair, and he'd say, "I'm so lucky to have you, Patty. I don't know what I'd do without you." And I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. On weekends, we'd do family things. The park, the zoo, the movies. We'd hold hands walking down the street, me and Marcus, with Tyler and Emma skipping ahead of us. Other couples would look at us and smile, and I could see it in their eyes. They thought we had it all figured out. The perfect marriage, the perfect family. My friends from high school would call sometimes, the ones who'd moved to big cities and had careers and traveled the world. They'd tell me about their lives, and I'd tell them about mine, and I could hear it in their voices, that mix of pity and envy. Pity because I'd given up so much. Envy because I had stability, commitment, a husband who came home every night. "You're so lucky," my friend Jennifer told me once. "In this day and age, finding a faithful man who actually wants to be a family man, that's rare. Patricia, hold on to him." And I did. I held on with everything I had. But soon, I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. It was little stuff at first, tiny cracks in the perfect picture, the kind of things you tell yourself you're imagining because you don't want to believe something might be wrong. Marcus started coming home later, just 15 minutes at first, then half an hour. "Traffic was terrible," he'd say. Or, "I had to finish up a project." Or, "Bob needed help with his spreadsheets." Always a reasonable explanation. Always delivered with that same tired smile that made me feel guilty for even wondering. His phone became an extension of his hand. He'd be sitting right next to me on the couch, and it would buzz, and he'd snatch it up so fast, angling it away from me. "Work email," he'd mutter. But since when did accountants get so many urgent work emails at 9 o'clock at night? The way he kissed me changed too. Before, when he'd kiss me goodbye in the morning, it was full and warm, like he meant it. Now it was quick, distracted, his mind already somewhere else. And at night, when I'd reach for him in bed, he'd yawn and say he was exhausted. Too many late nights at the office, too much stress. But the most painful thing? The thing that cut deepest? He stopped looking me in the eyes. When we talked, his gaze would slide away, focusing on something over my shoulder or down at his hands. It was like he couldn't bear to see me anymore. Like looking at me reminded him of something he wanted to forget. I told myself I was being paranoid. hormonal, needy, all the things women get called when they trust their instincts. I'd read too many stories online, watched too many talk shows about cheating husbands. I was creating problems where none existed. But then the money started disappearing. Nothing huge, nothing obvious. Just $50 here, 100 there. I handled the household budget, paid the bills, balanced the checkbook, and suddenly, things weren't adding up. There were ATM withdrawals I couldn't account for. Cash that should have been in his wallet but wasn't. Where did the money go? I asked him once, trying to keep my voice light and casual. He looked annoyed, like I was accusing him of something terrible instead of just asking a simple question. I don't know, Patricia. I bought lunch, gas. You want me to save every receipt? I work hard to provide for this family. Can't I spend a little money without getting interrogated? The way he said interrogated made me feel small, unreasonable, like a nagging shrew who couldn't appreciate her hard-working husband. So I backed off. I apologized. I told him, of course, he could spend money without explaining every penny. But the doubt had taken root. It grew in the dark spaces of my mind, spreading like poison ivy, impossible to ignore no matter how hard I tried. Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. It was a Tuesday evening in late September. I remember because Emma had just started kindergarten, and Tuesday was the day she had art class, which she loved. She came home with paint on her hands and a picture of our family stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. I'd taped it to the refrigerator, right next to Tyler's spelling test with the gold star. Marcus came home at 7:15 that night, 45 minutes late. His shirt was wrinkled in a way it hadn't been that morning when he'd left for work, and there was a smell on him. Not perfume, nothing obvious like that. Just something different, something that didn't belong. "Sorry I'm late," he said, not meeting my eyes. Meeting ran long, but his voice had that edge to it, that defensive tone people use when they're lying and they know you might catch them. I wanted to call him on it. I wanted to demand the truth. But Emma was tugging on my sleeve, asking if she could have a cookie before dinner, and Tyler needed help with his math homework, and the moment passed. We ate dinner in near silence that night. Marcus pushed his food around his plate, barely eating. He kept checking his phone under the table. I could see the glow reflected on his face, could see the way his expression would change as he read whatever messages were coming through. "Everything okay at work?" I asked, trying to sound supportive instead of suspicious. "Fine," he snapped. Then softer, like he realized he'd been too harsh. "Just stressed. Big audit coming up." But there was no audit. I knew his work schedule. I knew because I'd planned our whole lives around it when we could take vacations, when he'd be too busy for family dinners, when he'd need me to be extra understanding. There was no audit in September. That night, after the kids were in bed, I tried to talk to him. Really talk. "Marcus," I said, sitting down next to him on the couch. "I feel like something's wrong, like we're drifting apart. Can we talk about it?" He looked at me then, and for just a second, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt? Fear? Pain? I couldn't tell. But then it was gone, replaced by irritation. "There's nothing wrong, Patricia. You're imagining things. I'm just busy at work. Is that a crime? Should I quit my job so I can sit at home and hold your hand all day?" The cruelty in his voice stunned me. Marcus had never talked to me like that before, never been mean or dismissive. Even when we argued, he'd always been respectful. "I'm not asking you to quit your job," I said quietly, feeling tears prick my eyes. "I'm just asking you to talk to me, to let me in. You're shutting me out and I don't understand why." He stood up abruptly. "I'm going to bed. I have an early meeting tomorrow. And he left me sitting there in the dark living room, alone with my confusion and hurt. The next day, I called my sister Rachel. Rachel had always been my closest confidant, the one person who understood me without judgment. I told her everything, the late nights, the phone secrecy, the money, the way Marcus had changed. "You need to trust your gut," she said. When my ex started acting like that, I ignored the signs for 6 months. By the time I finally confronted him, he'd drained our savings account and moved in with his secretary. "But Marcus isn't like that," I protested. "He's a good man. A good father. He loves us. Maybe," Rachel said gently. "But good men can make bad choices. And love doesn't always stop people from lying. You need to find out the truth, Patricia, before it's too late." But how? How was I supposed to find out the truth when every time I asked a question, I got accused of being paranoid, when every concern was dismissed as my imagination? I started paying closer attention, watching, listening, gathering the pieces of a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to complete. Marcus's car would smell different sometimes. Like cigarettes, even though he didn't smoke. Like fried food from restaurants we never ate at. Once, I found a receipt crumpled in the cup holder dinner for 2 at a steakhouse downtown. $140. On a Wednesday night when he'd told me he was working late and I'd saved him a plate of leftovers. When I asked him about it, he got angry. "Are you checking up on me now? Going through my car like I'm some kind of criminal?" I took a client to dinner. It's called business, Patricia. It's how I keep this roof over our heads. But he wouldn't tell me the client's name. Wouldn't show me the expense report he supposedly filed. Just got angrier and angrier until I backed down, apologizing again for doubting him. He stopped touching me altogether. No more casual kisses in the kitchen. No more hand-holding on the couch. At night, he'd curl up on his side of the bed, as far from me as possible, and pretend to be asleep before I even finished brushing my teeth. I felt like I was going crazy, like I was losing my mind. Maybe I was imagining it all. Maybe the stress of raising 2 kids and managing a household was making me paranoid. Maybe I was turning into one of those bitter, suspicious wives who see betrayal in every shadow. But then I found the text message. It was an accident. I swear it was. Marcus had left his phone on the kitchen counter when he ran out to his car to get his briefcase. It buzzed, just once, and I glanced down. Not meaning to snoop, just a reflex. The preview on the screen read, "Missing you already. Can't wait for Friday. Same place?" The contact name was just a letter. M. My hands started shaking. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I knew I shouldn't. I knew it was wrong. But I picked up that phone and I tried to unlock it. He'd changed his password. It used to be our anniversary. He'd changed it to something I didn't know. When Marcus came back inside, I was standing there frozen, his phone in my hand. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice cold. "Who's M?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "A colleague. Give me my phone." "What does missing you already mean?" "Jesus Christ, Patricia!" He snatched the phone from my hand. "It's a figure of speech. We just finished a project together. You're being insane." But his face had gone pale. His hand trembled slightly as he shoved the phone in his pocket, and I knew, in that moment, I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. My husband was lying to me. He stopped smiling. He stopped looking me in the eyes. And now I knew why. The person I'd built my entire life around, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, was keeping secrets. And those secrets were destroying us from the inside out. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, and I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. In this limbo of doubt and denial, I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt, until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. But even knowing what I knew, accepting what I suspected that was different, that was impossible. Because accepting it meant accepting that everything I believed about my life was a lie. It meant admitting that the 9 years I'd poured into this marriage, the dreams I'd given up, the version of myself I'd buried to become Marcus's wife, it had all been for nothing. How could I face that? How could anyone? I spent the next few days in a fog, going through the motions of my life like a ghost. Making breakfast, driving carpool, folding laundry. But inside, I was screaming. Inside, I was dying. I'd catch myself staring at Marcus across the dinner table, studying his face like he was a stranger, searching for the man I'd married in the features of this person I no longer recognized. Was he there somewhere? Had he ever been real? Or had I invented him, created a fantasy husband who never actually existed? The doubt ate at me like acid. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe that text message really was innocent. Maybe I was destroying a good marriage with my paranoia and insecurity. I tried to talk to my mother about it. Big mistake. Patricia Ann, she said in that disappointed voice that had haunted me since childhood. You're being ridiculous. Marcus is a good provider. He works hard for his family. So he's a little distant sometimes? So what? Marriage isn't a fairy tale. It's work. It's sacrifice. You think your father and I didn't have rough patches? But I didn't go snooping through his things or accusing him of God knows what. But Mom, something feels wrong. Something feels wrong, she interrupted. Let me tell you what's wrong. You spend too much time on the internet reading horror stories. You're letting your imagination run wild. You have a good life, a beautiful home, 2 healthy children, and a husband who's never hit you or gotten drunk or abandoned his responsibilities. And you're going to throw that away because of a text message? Her words hit like punches. Because wasn't she right? Wasn't I being ungrateful? Dramatic? Wasn't I risking everything over what might be nothing? Just ignore it, my mother continued. Whatever it is you think you saw, let it go. Men need their space, their privacy. If you go digging, you're only going to find trouble. And then what? You end up divorced, raising 2 kids alone, working some minimum wage job because you never finished college? Is that what you want? No. God, no. That wasn't what I wanted. I wanted my old life back. The one where I believed in my marriage, where I trusted my husband, where I felt safe and loved and valued. But that life was gone. I could feel it slipping through my fingers like water, and no amount of denial could hold it together. Marcus must have sensed my suspicions because he started love-bombing me. That's what they call it, isn't it? When someone showers you with affection right when you're about to leave or confront them? He brought me flowers. Roses. My favorite. Just because, he said with that old smile, the genuine one I hadn't seen in months. Because I love you, and I don't tell you enough. He took me out to dinner, just the 2 of us, leaving the kids with his mother. At the restaurant, he held my hand across the table. I know I've been distant, he said, looking into my eyes with such sincerity I almost believed him. Work has been overwhelming, but that's no excuse. You're my wife. You're the most important person in my life. I need to do better. And I wanted so badly to believe him. I wanted to fall back into the comfort of trust, to let those words heal the cracks in my heart. I'm sorry if I've been acting crazy, I said, squeezing his hand. I love you so much. I'm scared of losing you. You're not going to lose me, he said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. It's you and me, Patty, always. For 3 days, I let myself hope. Maybe we'd just hit a rough patch. Maybe this was normal. Maybe every marriage went through periods of doubt and distance. But then Friday came. Friday. The day mentioned in that text message. Can't wait for Friday. Same place? Marcus left for work that morning just like always. Kiss on the forehead. Love you. Out the door by 6:15. I tried to go about my day normally. I really did. But by noon, I couldn't take it anymore. The not knowing was killing me. The doubt was poison in my veins. I called his office. Hi. This is Patricia Hamilton, Marcus's wife, I said to the receptionist, trying to sound casual. Is Marcus available? I need to ask him something quick. Oh, Mrs. Hamilton, the receptionist said. Marcus called in sick today. Is everything okay? He said he had the flu. The world tilted. My vision went dark around the edges. Yes. I heard myself say from very far away. Yes. Everything's fine. I must have. I forgot. The flu. Right. Thank you. I hung up. Marcus had lied. He'd gotten dressed for work, kissed me goodbye, and lied straight to my face. Where was he? Who was he with? What was he doing while I sat at home with our children, defending him to my family, convincing myself I was crazy for doubting him? The doorbell rang, jolting me from my spiral. I wiped my eyes when had I started crying, and went to answer it. It was my neighbor, Carol, holding a casserole dish. Hi, sweetie, she said, then her face fell. Oh, honey, are you okay? You look awful. And I broke. Right there on my front porch, I broke into pieces. Carol ushered me inside, set down her casserole, and wrapped her arms around me while I sobbed. What's wrong? Is it one of the kids? It's Marcus, I choked out. I think he's cheating on me. Saying it out loud made it real, made it undeniable. Oh, sweetheart, Carol said, rubbing my back. What makes you think that? I told her everything. The late nights, the secrecy, the text message, the lie about work today, all of it came pouring out in a rush of pain and fear. Carol listened without judgment, and when I finished, she looked me straight in the eyes. Patricia, listen to me. You're not crazy. You're not imagining this. I've been where you are. I know what it looks like when a man is hiding something. But what if I'm wrong? I whispered. What if I confront him, and I'm wrong, and I ruin everything? And what if you don't confront him? Carol asked gently. What if you spend the next year like this, doubting yourself, making excuses for him, slowly going insane? Is that better? No. It wasn't better. It was unbearable. You need to know the truth, Carol said. And there's only one way to find out. I nodded, something hardening inside me. She was right. My mother was wrong. Denial wasn't protecting me, it was destroying me. But the next morning, the evidence was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. That Friday night, Marcus came home at his usual time. 6:30 on the dot. He looked tired but satisfied, like someone who'd had a good day. He kissed my cheek, he played with the kids. He ate the dinner I'd made even though my hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the serving spoon. All evening, I watched him, studied him, searched his face for guilt or shame or any hint that he'd just spent the day doing God knows what while lying to me about being sick. There was nothing. He was perfectly normal, perfectly calm, like lying was as natural to him as breathing. When we went to bed that night, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening to him sleep peacefully beside me. How could he sleep? How could he rest when he was living a double life? Unless I really was crazy. Unless there was a reasonable explanation for everything and I was tearing apart my family over nothing. No, I couldn't afford to think like that anymore. Carol was right. I needed proof. I needed to know, one way or another, what was really happening. The next morning, after Marcus left for work allegedly, I dropped the kids off at my sister's house. I need to run errands, I told Rachel. Can you watch them for a few hours? Rachel took one look at my face and nodded. She understood without me having to explain. Then I went home and I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched my own husband's belongings like a detective investigating a crime. I started with his dresser. Socks, underwear, undershirts, nothing. His closet, work clothes, casual clothes. That jacket he never wore, nothing. The bathroom, his shaving cream, his cologne, his... Wait. Behind the box of Band-Aids in the medicine cabinet, tucked way in the back where I'd never normally look, I found a phone. Not his phone. A different phone. A cheap prepaid flip phone in a plastic case. My hands trembled as I opened it. It wasn't password protected, and there, in the message history, I found everything. Dozens of texts. All to the same number, saved under M. Can't stop thinking about you. Last night was incredible. She suspects something. Need to be more careful. Missing you already. Can't wait for Friday. Same place? He was talking about me. To someone else. To someone he was sleeping with. The messages went back months. 6 months. Half a year of lies and betrayal and sneaking around behind my back while I cooked his dinners and washed his clothes and defended him to everyone who questioned him. I couldn't breathe. The bathroom walls closed in around me. I slid down onto the floor, the phone clutched in my shaking hands, and I screamed, a raw, animal sound of pure agony. How could he do this to me? How could he look into my eyes every single day, say he loved me, make plans for our future, tuck our children into bed and then go meet someone else, touch someone else, tell someone else the things he used to tell me? But the messages, as devastating as they were, weren't enough. I needed more. I needed to see. I needed to catch him in the act so he couldn't deny it, couldn't make me feel crazy, couldn't turn this around on me somehow. I dried my tears. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, and I started making a plan. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize, calculating, secretive. I was doing to Marcus exactly what he'd been doing to me, living a double life, keeping secrets, performing normalcy while planning something else entirely. I went to the electronics store and bought a small camera, the kind people use for home security. The young man at the store showed me how it worked, how it could be controlled from an app on my phone, how it recorded to a cloud so the footage couldn't be deleted. Setting up a nanny cam? He asked cheerfully. Something like that, I replied. I also opened a separate bank account he didn't know about. I wasn't sure what was coming, but I needed to be prepared. I withdrew cash from ATMs, $20 here, $40 there, nothing large enough for him to notice. I hid it in an envelope taped behind my underwear drawer. I called a lawyer. Just for a consultation, I told her. Just to understand my options. If you're asking about divorce, you need documentation, the lawyer said. Especially if you think adultery is involved. Photos, videos, witnesses, and you need to protect your assets. Make copies of all financial documents, bank statements, tax returns, credit card bills. Understand what you have and where it is. I did all of that. Every day, while Marcus was at work or pretending to be at work, I gathered evidence. I photographed documents. I created a secret email account and forwarded everything to myself. I became a spy in my own home. The worst part? I had to keep acting normal. I had to kiss him goodbye every morning, make his coffee, smile when he walked through the door, pretend everything was fine, while I died inside a little more each day. "You're quiet lately," he said one night, trying to pull me close on the couch. I let him, even though my skin crawled at his touch. "Just tired," I said. "The kids have been running me ragged." "You work too hard," he said, kissing my temple. "You're an amazing mother, an amazing wife. I don't deserve you." Finally, he'd said something true. I found out about the hotel, the same place from the text messages. It wasn't hard. I checked our credit card statements and found it. The Riverside Hotel. Charges every other Friday for the past 4 months. Same amount every time, $127.50. Room 304. My lawyer told me that hotel surveillance might not be admissible in court, but I didn't care about court. Not yet. I cared about the truth. I cared about seeing it with my own eyes, so that no one, not Marcus, not my mother, not the voice of doubt in my own head, could ever tell me I was imagining things again. The camera arrived on a Wednesday. Small, discreet, perfect for hiding. I tested it in the house, making sure I could access the feed from my phone. It worked flawlessly. Now I just had to figure out how to get it into that hotel room without Marcus knowing, without anyone knowing. The answer came from an unlikely source. My friend Jennifer, the one who'd moved to the city. She came to visit that week, and over coffee at my kitchen table, I told her everything. "Oh, honey," she said, reaching across to grip my hand. "I'm so sorry." "What are you going to do?" "I need to catch him," I said. "I need proof, but I don't know how to get it." Jennifer was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she said, "What if I checked into the room? As a guest? I could plant the camera before they arrive." "Would you do that?" "Of course. You're my friend, and honestly, men who do this deserve to be exposed. When's the next Friday?" "Tomorrow." "Then tomorrow it is." That night, I pressed record and waited. Actually, I didn't wait. I couldn't just sit at home. I needed to be there, to see. Jennifer checked into room 304 at noon on Friday. She texted me. "Camera is hidden on top of the wardrobe, angled toward the bed. You're all set. I'm so sorry you have to do this." I waited until 2 o'clock, the time Marcus usually met M, based on the pattern I'd pieced together from his calendar and the hotel charges. Then I drove to the Riverside Hotel. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. With every mile, I wanted to turn back. I wanted to go home, delete the camera feed, pretend I'd never started this investigation. But I couldn't. I'd come too far. I needed to see. I parked in the back lot where Marcus wouldn't spot my car. Then I walked through the front entrance, past the smiling desk clerk, toward the elevator. Each floor that elevator climbed felt like descending into hell. First floor, second floor, third floor. The doors opened. I stepped out into the hallway, my legs shaking so badly I could barely walk. Room 304 was at the end of the corridor. I could leave. I could still leave. I could turn around and go home, and the door to room 304 opened. Marcus stepped out, laughing at something, adjusting his shirt, running his hand through his hair, in that way he always did after sex. That's what that gesture meant. I'd seen it 1,000 times over 9 years of marriage. And then she stepped out behind him. Time stopped. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. Couldn't make sense of it. Because the woman stepping out of that hotel room, straightening her clothes, smiling up at my husband with such intimate familiarity, it wasn't some random woman. It wasn't a colleague or a stranger or even someone I'd never met. It was his mother. No. Wait. That didn't make sense. My mind was playing tricks on me. It had to be, because what I was seeing was impossible. But it wasn't his mother. As she turned, I saw her face clearly for the first time. It was an old woman, maybe 70 years old, maybe older, gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, sensible shoes, a floral print dress like something my grandmother would have worn. She had kind eyes and laugh lines around her mouth. And she was reaching into her purse, pulling out an envelope, handing it to Marcus. He kissed her cheek. "Thank you," I heard him say. "Same time in 2 weeks?" "Of course, dear," she said in a soft, grandmotherly voice. "You're always such good company." Marcus took the envelope and tucked it into his jacket pocket. Then they parted ways, she heading toward the elevator, him walking the opposite direction toward the stairwell. I stood frozen in the hallway, unable to move, unable to think, unable to understand what I'd just witnessed. My husband, with an elderly woman, at a hotel, her giving him money. What the hell? I watched her get on the elevator, still smiling to herself like someone who'd just had a pleasant afternoon. Then I ran to the stairwell and flew down 3 flights of stairs, my heels clattering against the concrete, my breath coming in gasps. I burst out into the parking lot just in time to see Marcus getting into his car. He didn't see me. He was checking his phone, that envelope still visible in his jacket. I ran to my car and followed him. He didn't go far, just to the bank on 5th Street. I watched from across the parking lot as he went inside, came back out 5 minutes later without the envelope. He'd deposited the money, whatever money that old woman had given him. Then he drove home, our home, where I should have been but wasn't because I'd been following him like something out of a detective movie. I waited 10 minutes before following. By the time I pulled into our driveway, Marcus was already inside. I could see him through the kitchen window, pouring himself a glass of water, looking perfectly normal, perfectly calm, like he hadn't just done whatever the hell he'd just done. I sat in my car, shaking, trying to understand, trying to make the pieces fit together into something that made sense. My husband was meeting an elderly woman at a hotel every other Friday. She was giving him money. They were, what? What were they doing? The worst images flooded my mind, things I couldn't even say out loud, things that made my stomach turn. But it couldn't be. Could it? An old woman like that? And Marcus? It was impossible. It was sick. It was. But I'd seen them. With my own eyes, I'd seen them coming out of that room together, seen the way she smiled at him, heard her call him dear, watched her hand him money like it was a transaction. I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, about my marriage, about the man I'd built my life with, it was gone, shattered, replaced by this horrifying image I couldn't unsee. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run into that house and demand answers. But I couldn't move. I literally could not make my body move. How do you confront something like this? What words exist for, "I saw you leaving a hotel room with an elderly woman who paid you"? My phone buzzed. A notification from the camera app. The recording had ended. 4 hours of footage saved to the cloud. With shaking hands, I opened the app. I had to know. I had to see what had happened in that room before I saw them leave. The footage started at 12:15. The room was empty, just a standard hotel room queen bed with a floral comforter, 2 nightstands, a TV, a chair by the window. At 1:48, the door opened. Marcus walked in first, followed by the old woman. They didn't kiss. They didn't embrace. They just talked. Sat on the edge of the bed, side by side, talking like old friends. I couldn't hear what they were saying, the camera didn't have audio. But I could see their body language. Marcus looked stressed, running his hands through his hair. The woman patted his arm, nodding sympathetically. Then she stood up and started taking off her jewelry, her watch, her necklace, her rings, setting them carefully on the nightstand. Marcus stood too. He took off his jacket, his tie, and then, oh God, he helped her unzip her dress. I almost dropped my phone. Almost couldn't keep watching. But I had to see. The old woman stepped out of her dress, carefully, like she was getting ready for bed. Underneath, she wore plain white undergarments, nothing provocative, nothing sexual, just practical underwear like any grandmother might wear. Marcus turned away while she got undressed, giving her privacy. Then, when she was down to her undergarments, she lay down on the bed, and Marcus lay down beside her. On top of the covers, fully clothed except for his shoes, which he'd left by the door. They lay there side by side for what the timestamp showed was 2 hours and 17 minutes. Just laying there. Sometimes talking. Sometimes the woman would reach over and pat his hand. Once, she stroked his hair like a mother comforting a child. And Marcus cried. I could see his shoulders shaking, see him wipe his eyes. At 4:05, they got up. The woman got dressed again. Marcus helped her with her zipper. She took an envelope from her purse and gave it to him. He hugged her a long, tight hug like he didn't want to let go. Then they left the room. And I sat in my car in my driveway, watching footage on my phone, and I had absolutely no idea what I'd just witnessed. But what happened next was even worse. I went inside. I walked through that front door like a zombie, my mind blank, my body moving on autopilot. Marcus was in the living room, watching TV. He looked up when I came in. Hey, babe, where were you? I thought you'd be home. Errands, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. You okay? You look pale. Fine, just tired. He nodded, accepting the lie, and went back to his show. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, where we'd slept together for 9 years, where we'd made love and argued and reconciled and created the intimacy that marriage is supposed to be built on. And I realized I didn't know this man at all. Whatever I'd just witnessed, it was real. It had happened. The footage didn't lie. Marcus had been meeting an elderly woman at a hotel, lying down with her, crying with her, accepting money from her. But why? What did it mean? The scenarios that ran through my head ranged from bizarre to horrifying. Was he her caretaker? Her companion? Was this some kind of escort service for lonely elderly women? Was he being blackmailed? Was she blackmailing him? Was he blackmailing her? Nothing made sense. Nothing fit. I needed to confront him. But how? If I told him what I'd seen, he'd know I'd followed him. He'd know I'd spied on him. He'd accuse me of violating his privacy, of being paranoid, of destroying our marriage with my distrust. But didn't I have a right to know? Wasn't I entitled to the truth about what my husband was doing every other Friday while I stayed home with our children? For 3 days, I said nothing. I watched Marcus. I studied him like a stranger, and he acted completely normal, happy even, like his life was exactly as it should be. On Monday, he brought home pizza for dinner, saying he knew I'd had a long day and deserved a break from cooking. On Tuesday, he helped Tyler with a science project, building a volcano that actually erupted all over the kitchen floor. We all laughed, cleaning up the mess together. On Wednesday night, as we lay in bed, he rolled over and pulled me close. I love you, he whispered into my hair. You know that, right? I love you so much. And I almost told him right then. Almost said, then why? Why the hotel? Why the old woman? Why the lies? But I couldn't get the words out. because part of me was terrified of the answer. Thursday morning, I woke up to find Marcus already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me sleep. "Hey," I mumbled, trying to shake off the grogginess. "We need to talk," he said quietly. My heart stopped. He knew. Somehow, he knew what I'd done, what I'd seen. I sat up, pulling the blanket around me like armor. "Okay." Marcus took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and when he spoke, his voice was shaking. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago, but I was scared, so scared that you'd leave me, that you'd think I was weak or pathetic or, I don't know, wrong." "What is it?" I whispered. He got out of bed, started pacing. Couldn't look at me. "When I was 14, my mother died. You know that. But what I never told you, what I never told anyone, is that I was with her when it happened. She had a heart attack, right in front of me, and I froze. I didn't call 911 fast enough. I didn't do CPR right. I couldn't save her." Tears were streaming down his face now. "I've carried that guilt my whole life, the feeling that I killed her, that if I'd been better, faster, smarter, she'd still be alive. And sometimes it gets so bad I can barely breathe. I have panic attacks, depression. I can't tell you because I don't want you to worry, don't want you to see me as broken." He finally looked at me, his eyes red and desperate. "6 months ago, I found this woman, Margaret. She's a therapist who specializes in grief counseling, but she doesn't do it in an office. She does something called holding therapy. She lies down with her clients, holds them, lets them cry, recreates that maternal comfort they lost. It sounds insane, I know it does, but it's the only thing that's helped." "The hotel?" I managed to ask. "She lives 3 hours away. The hotel is halfway between. We meet every 2 weeks. I lie there with her, and I tell her about my mother, and I cry, and she just holds me, like a mother would. And for a little while I feel okay again." "The money?" "Her fee. $300 per session. I've been taking it out in cash so you wouldn't see it on our bank statements, so you wouldn't ask questions, so you wouldn't know that your husband is such a mess that he has to pay an elderly woman to pretend to be his mother every other Friday." He sank to his knees in front of me, burying his face in the blanket, sobbing. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for lying. I'm so sorry for all of it. Please don't leave me. Please. I know I'm broken, but I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying so hard." I sat there frozen, my hands hovering over his head, not sure whether to comfort him or push him away. Because everything I'd feared, everything I'd imagined, it was wrong. Completely wrong. He wasn't having an affair. He wasn't cheating. He was hurting, suffering, carrying a burden so heavy he'd rather lie than let me help him bear it. And I felt like the worst person in the world. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered, finally touching his hair. "Why couldn't you just tell me?" "Because I'm supposed to be strong," he choked out. "I'm supposed to take care of you, not the other way around. I'm the man, the husband, the provider. I'm not supposed to need anyone to hold me while I cry about my mommy." "That's stupid," I said, and I was crying too now. "That's so stupid, Marcus. You're human. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to need help. I thought you'd think I was weak. I think you're suffering. There's a difference." We held each other on that bedroom floor for a long time, both of us crying, both of us releasing years of pain and secrets and fear. But even as I held him, even as I felt relief wash over me that he wasn't cheating, that our marriage wasn't the lie I'd feared it was, I felt something else too. Anger. Because he'd still lied to me, For 6 months, he'd looked me in the eyes and lied. He'd let me doubt myself, let me feel crazy and paranoid and unreasonable. He'd watched me hurt and said nothing. "You should have told me," I said, pulling back to look at him. "You should have trusted me with this." "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were cheating on me, Marcus. Do you understand that? I thought I was losing you to someone else. I thought our marriage was over." The look of horror on his face was genuine. "Oh, God. Patty. No. Never. I would never. You're everything to me." "Then why?" My voice was rising now, all the fear and pain of the past weeks bubbling up into anger. "Why did you make me feel crazy? Why did you gaslight me into thinking I was paranoid when you knew that I'd noticed something was wrong?" I panicked. I didn't know what to do. "You talk to me. That's what you do. We're supposed to be partners, Marcus. We're supposed to be a team. But you shut me out completely." I was ashamed. "I don't care." I was shouting now. "I don't care if you were ashamed. You don't get to make that choice for both of us. You don't get to decide what I can handle. I'm your wife, not your child." He flinched like I'd hit him. And maybe that was unfair. Maybe I should have been more understanding. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because even though I understood why he'd lied, even though I had compassion for his pain, he'd still hurt me. Deeply. And that hurt didn't just disappear because I understood the reason behind it. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I can forgive this." "Please," he whispered. "Please try. I'll do anything. I'll stop the sessions if you want. I'll find a regular therapist. I'll be completely transparent about everything. I'll step—" "Don't stop the sessions," I interrupted. "If they're helping you, don't stop. But you need to be honest with me about them. About all of it. No more secrets. No more lies. Even the small ones. Even the lies you tell to protect me from worry. I need the truth, Marcus. All of it. Always." He nodded frantically. "Yes. Okay. Yes. I promise." I thought it was over, but I was wrong. The next few weeks were hard. Harder than I'd expected. Marcus kept his promise. He was completely transparent. He showed me texts with Margaret, his calendar, his bank statements. He told me about every session, what they talked about, how he felt, what he was working through. He also started seeing a regular therapist twice a week. A man this time, someone who could help him process his grief without the physical comfort element that had made him feel so ashamed. But transparency doesn't automatically rebuild trust. It's a start, but it's not enough. I found myself watching him again, not because I suspected him of lying, but because I couldn't turn it off. The hypervigilance I'd developed over those weeks of investigation, it had become a habit, a reflex. Every time his phone buzzed, my stomach would clench. Every time he came home late, my mind would race. Even though he showed me everything, even though he was doing everything right, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might be hiding something else, that there might be other secrets lurking beneath the surface. And that's not fair to either of us. I knew it wasn't fair, but knowing something and feeling it are two different things. We tried couples counseling. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Rhodes, helped us navigate the aftermath of what she called a breakdown in marital communication and trust. "Marcus," she said in one session, "you were trying to protect Patricia from your pain. But in doing so, you denied her the choice to support you. You made a unilateral decision about your marriage that should have been made together." He nodded, understanding but still struggling with guilt. "And Patricia," she turned to me, "you're hurt. Rightfully so. But at some point, you'll need to decide whether you're going to forgive him and move forward, or whether the damage is too great. Neither choice is wrong, but you can't stay in this limbo forever. It's not sustainable. She was right. I knew she was right. But forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a choice you make over and over, every day, sometimes every hour. And some days I chose forgiveness. Other days I chose anger. And some days I just chose numbness because it was easier than feeling anything at all. The kids noticed something was wrong. Tyler asked me once why Daddy and I didn't laugh as much anymore. Emma started having nightmares, waking up crying that we were leaving her. "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" Tyler asked me one morning while I was making his lunch. The question hit me like a physical blow. Why would you think that? Because Jenny's parents got divorced last year, and her mom said it was because they weren't happy anymore. And you and Daddy don't seem happy. I put down the sandwich I was making and knelt in front of my son. Looked into his eyes, Marcus's eyes, and felt my heart break all over again. "Daddy and I are going through a hard time," I said honestly. "But we're trying to work it out. We're trying to make things better. And no matter what happens, we both love you and Emma more than anything in the world. That will never change." "But what if it's not enough?" he asked, and the adult fear in his 7-year-old voice destroyed me. "Then we'll figure it out," I said, pulling him into a hug. "Together, as a family. Okay?" He nodded against my shoulder, but I felt his tears soaking through my shirt. That night, after the kids were in bed, I told Marcus about the conversation. "This isn't just about us anymore," I said. "It's affecting them too. We need to decide what we're doing, for their sake, if not our own." "I know," he said quietly. "What do you want to do?" And that was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? I wanted my old marriage back, the one where I trusted without question, where I felt safe and loved and certain. But that marriage was gone. It had been an illusion, built on Marcus's secrets and my ignorance. Could we build something new? Something real? Something based on honesty even when it was hard? I thought about the man I'd married 9 years ago, the man I'd built a life with, the father of my children, the person who still made me coffee every morning and kissed my forehead before leaving for work. He was flawed, broken in ways I hadn't understood. But wasn't I broken too? Didn't we all carry wounds and fears and shame? "I want to try," I said finally. "I want to try to make this work. But it's going to take time. And you have to be patient with me. You have to understand that some days I'm going to struggle. Some days I'm going to doubt, and you can't get defensive or angry when that happens." "I understand," he said, "and I promise. I'll be patient. I'll prove to you that I'm worth trusting again." And slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. Marcus continued his therapy, both kinds. He was more open with me about his struggles, his bad days, his fears. When he felt a panic attack coming on, he'd tell me instead of hiding it. We'd sit together, and I'd hold his hand until it passed. I continued my own therapy too, because I realized I needed help processing everything I'd been through. The fear, the investigation, the revelation, the aftermath, it had taken a toll on me that I couldn't just ignore. Dr. Rhodes helped me understand that my role in all this wasn't just as the victim. I'd also been the investigator, the spy, the one who violated privacy in pursuit of truth. And I had to reckon with that too. "You did what you felt you needed to do," she said, "and given the circumstances, it's understandable. But how do you feel about the methods you used?" "Guilty," I admitted. "Ashamed. Like I stooped to his level." "Did you?" "I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter?" I got the truth. "It matters if it's eating at you," she said gently. "It matters if you can't forgive yourself for doing something you felt was necessary. You're allowed to feel conflicted about it. And I did. I felt so conflicted about everything. 3 months after the revelation, Marcus came home from work with an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside were 2 tickets. To Hawaii. A 7-day vacation at a resort, just the 2 of us. His mother, his actual mother-in-law, not the therapist Margaret, had agreed to watch the kids. "I know things are still hard," Marcus said. "I know we're still working through everything. But I thought, maybe getting away, just us. No responsibilities or routines or memories, maybe it could help. A fresh start. What do you think?" I looked at the tickets, at the dates, at the resort name printed in elegant script, and I thought about how much had changed, how much we'd both lost and gained and struggled through. "Okay," I said. "Let's try." We went to Hawaii. And it was nice. Not perfect. Not like a second honeymoon or some magical reset button. But nice. We talked, really talked, about everything. His childhood, my fears, our mistakes, our hopes for the future. One night, sitting on the beach watching the sunset, Marcus turned to me and said, "I know I can never undo what I did, the lying, the secrecy, the pain I caused you. But I swear to you, Patricia, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the husband you deserve." "I don't need perfect," I said. "I just need honest. Can you give me that?" "Yes," he said. "I can give you that." And just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. 2 months after we returned from Hawaii, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned. We'd barely started to find our footing again in our marriage, and suddenly there was this new life growing inside me, demanding we figure out our future. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked when I told him, his face a mixture of hope and fear. "Terrified," I said honestly. "But also, maybe hopeful? I don't know. How do you feel?" "The same," he said, "terrified, hopeful, wondering if we're ready for this." "Are we ever ready for anything?" I asked. He laughed. A real laugh, the first one I'd heard in months. No, I guess we're not." Our 3rd child, another girl, we found out later, was born the following spring. We named her Grace because that's what we'd needed to get through everything. Grace for each other's failures. Grace for our own mistakes. Grace to keep trying when it would have been easier to give up. And somewhere in the chaos of newborn life, the sleepless nights and constant feedings and the way Tyler and Emma adapted to being big siblings, something shifted. We stopped being the couple we were before. We became something new, something different. Better? I'm not sure I can say that. Different. More honest. More aware of how fragile everything is. I learned things through all of this. Hard lessons that I wish I hadn't needed to learn, but that changed me fundamentally. First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Maybe not in the way you think, maybe not in the way you fear, but wrong nonetheless. And ignoring that feeling, pushing it down, letting others convince you you're paranoid, that's how you lose yourself. I spent weeks doubting my own perceptions because everyone told me to. My mother, society, even parts of my own mind. And in doing so, I let myself suffer unnecessarily. I should have confronted Marcus sooner. I should have insisted on the truth instead of accepting his lies. But here's the complicated part. I also learned that the truth isn't always what you expect. Sometimes the betrayal isn't what you feared. Sometimes the person you love is hurting in ways you couldn't imagine, and sometimes the lies aren't malicious, they're just misguided attempts to protect themselves or you. That doesn't make the lies okay. It doesn't erase the pain they cause, but it does make forgiveness possible. Not easy, not automatic, but possible. Second, Communication is everything. If Marcus had told me from the beginning about his grief, his therapy, his struggles, we could have avoided all of this. We could have faced it together instead of letting it tear us apart. But he didn't tell me because he was ashamed. Because society tells men they have to be strong, that seeking help is weakness, that showing emotion is failure. And that toxic mindset nearly destroyed our marriage. We're teaching our sons, Tyler, and any future boys we might have, that it's okay to feel, it's okay to hurt, it's okay to need help. We're breaking that cycle of toxic masculinity that says men have to suffer in silence. Third, marriage is a choice. Not a one-time choice you make at the altar, but a daily choice to stay, to fight, to work at something even when it's hard. There were days after the revelation when I didn't want to choose Marcus. Days when leaving seemed easier than staying. Days when I resented him so deeply I could barely look at him. But I chose to stay. Not because I had to. Not because of the kids or financial security or fear of being alone. But because I looked at the man I'd married, flaws and wounds and all, and I decided he was worth fighting for. We were worth fighting for. That's what people don't tell you about marriage. It's not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth it. Someone whose flaws you can live with. Someone who's willing to do the work when things fall apart. Fourth, take care of yourself. During those weeks of investigation, I neglected myself completely. I stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping, stopped doing anything that brought me joy. I became consumed by the mystery, by the need to know the truth. And when the truth came out, I had nothing left. I was a shell. I learned that I needed to maintain myself even in crisis. That self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. That I'm no good to anyone, least of all my children, if I'm running on empty. Now I make time for myself. I go to therapy every week. I joined a book club. I'm taking online classes to finish my degree, finally pursuing that teaching dream I gave up years ago. Marcus supports this fully. He takes the kids on Saturday mornings so I can have time alone. Because I'm not just a wife and mother. I'm Patricia. I'm a whole person with needs and dreams and value beyond my relationships to others. Fifth, this could happen to anyone. That's what I want you to understand more than anything else. My story is specific. My circumstances are unique. But the underlying truth that the people we love can surprise us, that secrets can poison relationships, that trust can be broken and maybe rebuilt, that's universal. If you're listening to this and something feels wrong in your relationship, pay attention to that feeling. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're noticing something, and that something matters. Maybe it's not what you think. Maybe it's not cheating or betrayal in the traditional sense, but it's something, and you deserve to know what it is. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. You might save a life, even your own. Because I was dying in those weeks of uncertainty, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. I was losing myself in the doubt and fear. And if I'd kept ignoring my instincts, if I'd never found the courage to investigate, to confront, to demand the truth, I don't know where I'd be now. But I know it wouldn't be here, in this imperfect but honest marriage, with these 3 beautiful children, finally feeling like myself again. So if you're going through something similar, here's what I want you to know. You're not alone. So many of us are struggling behind closed doors, maintaining perfect facades while falling apart inside. You're not wrong for questioning. You're not bad for investigating. You're not cruel for demanding honesty. You deserve the truth. You deserve a partner who respects you enough to be honest, even when it's hard, even when it's shameful, even when it means admitting weakness or failure. And whatever you discover, whatever truth you uncover, you will survive it. It might not feel like it in the moment. It might feel like your world is ending. but you're stronger than you think. We all are. I survived. My marriage survived. We're not perfect. We're not healed completely. Maybe we never will be. But we're here. We're trying. We're honest. And that's enough. That has to be enough. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it wasn't easy to hear. It wasn't easy to tell. But I believe in the power of sharing our truths, even when they're messy and painful and imperfect. Because somewhere out there, someone needed to hear this. Someone is lying awake right now, wondering if they're crazy for suspecting their partner. Someone is carrying secrets that are destroying them from the inside out. Someone is choosing between staying and leaving, between fighting and surrendering. And I want you to know, whatever you choose, it's okay. There's no wrong answer. There's only your answer, your truth, your life. If this story touched your heart in any way, please like this video. Subscribe to Voices with Auntie Mimi. This channel exists because of listeners like you, people who believe that real stories matter, that truth matters, that connection matters. And please, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I love knowing that my voice is reaching people all over the world, in different time zones, different circumstances, but all connected by our shared humanity. Tell me your story too, if you feel comfortable. You don't have to give details. You don't have to expose yourself. But if you've been through something similar, if you understand this pain, let me know. Let's build a community of people who refuse to suffer in silence. To everyone listening, you matter. Your story matters. Your pain matters. And your healing matters. Don't give up. Don't let the secrets win. Don't let the lies convince you that you're not worth the truth. You are worth it. You are worth fighting for. You are worth the effort of honesty and communication and real, genuine connection. I'm still learning that myself. Every day, I have to choose to believe it. Some days are easier than others, but I'm choosing, and I hope you will too. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough to hear my story to the end. Until next time, this is Patricia, sharing my voice with you through Auntie Mimi's channel. Remember, you're not alone. None of us are. We're all just trying to find our way through the darkness, one story at a time. Take care of yourselves, trust your instincts, demand your truth, and know that somewhere out there, I'm rooting for you. Good night.